Good evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm a fellow of Real Estate Bureau of Canada, real estate broker of record for City Pro Realty Inc. brokerage. I am your host tonight. We're going to talk about second unit registration and real estate. My office is in Mississauga, so we're going to talk about second unit in real estate, how we can get it registered. Mississauga City created a bylaw that allowed the establishment of second unit registration, bylaw number 0114-2016. There are two types of registration. One is that the unit was built before 14 July 1994, and the unit they were built after 14 July 1994. So the protocol is very simple. You go to City of Mississauga website, mississauga.ca, and seek for information about second dwelling unit. They have a form, very simple form, that you need to fill out, and it's called application to register a unit as a secondary unit. It's a form that you can download from their website, and it requires you to fill out the information about your property, and you talk about details, what is included, what is not included, and attach also a drawing and sketch of the unit, so you know what you are trying to get the approval. Every unit that is required approval, it requires certain safety and building standard and bylaws requirement. Right now, currently, there are 1,499 second unit registered in the city of Mississauga. So there are just the basic information is that when a owner live on the main floor and he or she get the second dwelling, which is normally a basement, registered with the city of Mississauga, they will be paying $250 license for every year for renewal of your license, because you get a license and your name is put on the registry. It's a legal apartment. If you are a not occupant of the main floor and you are an investor, or you are away out of town and you rent it to upstairs or downstairs, then your license fee will be $500. Every year you have to pay to maintain your dual unit status. So this is very, very important. So when you go there, you need to apply basically for a permit to allow you to use the second dwelling as a permissible unit and registered. So when you look into getting a permit, you have to look at, see, do I require a permit? Yes. In this case, there are list of things, for example, that do not require a permit. Accessory structure like a shed, cabana or gazebo less than 10 square meter does not require plumbing. You don't need a permit. So there are a list of things that you don't need a permit because it requires alteration in the basement to accommodate a complete second dwelling unit. You need alteration, and when you look at that requirement for licensing, yes, you need a license for that. So this is why it's very, very important for you to look at that. Now, if you have already, now there are two, like I mentioned, that one is you have existing basement that you want to get it registered, which has and you have to look at those dates. You need to fill out the application, submit to the city, and they have to check to make sure that it complies with the bylaws, the safety, exit in out from the unit. It has adequate access, safety access out from there, electricity, air conditioning, or maybe fire protection. So there are specific requirements that you have to follow, and you have to go and download information from Mississauga.ca. There are new unit. Let's say you want to build that. That would be the best thing for you is if you decided to build your second dwelling, you put together application and you gave a declaration. There's another form, it's called declaration. You can also download on Mississauga site and certify that on certain time frame that you plan to finish the second dwelling, and you're going to make sure that it complies with the bylaws and all those safety standards, and then you complete and you ask for inspection before occupancy, and you get your permit done and you apply for the application. So it's very easy to call City of Mississauga, and I will provide you the contact information towards the end of the program where to reach out. So if you live in Mississauga, just call 311 and ask for them second dwelling. They will give you planning division, and they will be able to help you out. So let's talk about the bylaws that deal with it. Is bylaw 0114-2016. So it defines the registry requirement, registration requirement for second dwelling. So every person who establishes, operates occupancy of second dwelling is required to get a permit. So there is a part for registration for second dwelling, and then there's part for administration of this bylaw. That means when you have a second dwelling, that requires inspection by the building inspector to make sure it complies with all the bylaws of having a second dwelling. So then you have to make sure this is registered, and the building permit, the city planning and building department will review your documentation that you submit. So application process is very simple. You fill out the form, they look at your Ontario building code requirement, they look at entire fire code requirement, they look at require Ontario electricity safety code as required by Ontario fire code. So make sure your electrical panel have all the requirement, and also you have a safety access. Then your zoning bylaw 225-007, that you are in complying with that. And also this bylaw is very specific to zoning. This was created because of affordability, lack of housing in Ontario, and this bylaw was introduced. So then owner, when he applies for it, they provide the sketches, the drawings required by the building department. They review it, and then they give you a permit to go ahead and build that. And when the building is done, they will ask you to come on and get the registration. And city in part 6 says we can refuse or revocation of your license. Let's assume they can submit an application, but they found that during the inspection they did not allow you the approval, and they can not let you occupy it, second dwelling. Or if you have already approval and you violated something, you changed something after getting the approval, they can revoke that because of the complaint or by revisiting. So this is why inspection is the way to make sure that everybody is in compliance. They will visit your property. Before they give you approval, they check everything. So this is why it's very, very important that you understand that. Now, if they come to your place, inspect the property, and they issue an order, this is not acceptable, you have to make sure to discontinue to use of this second dwelling. Otherwise you'll be in trouble, you could be fined. And I'll show you the fine. Section 8 talks about order to discontinue. That means you are violating those bylaws, those laws that I mentioned: building code, fire code, electric safety code, zoning bylaws, which is 225-2007. And then they can ask you to abandon that. Then I guess is notice. When somebody is complaining about it, or inspector find out that you are operating a second unit without registration, they can come and inspect and give you a notice. and there is a penalty for that. And this penalty is pretty hefty. I'm looking at section 26 of this zoning bylaw. This they are saying is that every person who contravenes any provision of bylaw, including an order issued under the bylaw, and every director or officer of a corporation who concurs in such contravention by the corporation is guilty of an offense and is liable to a fine and such other penalty as provided by the Provincial Offensive Act RSO 1990 CP 33 and the Municipal Act 2001. So this is why it's very, very important that you don't violate that. And in addition to bylaw 26, if you have a living person, it can fine you up to $25,000 or less, or if in case of a corporation, it could be $50,000 and up. That's why, and any section of bylaws or any part thereof is found to be a court of contempt, jurisdiction to be invalid, shall be swearable, and the remainder of the bylaw shall continue to be valid. So basically, this was passed on 8 June of 2016 by City Council of Mississauga. So that's why it's very, very important to find out when you are buying and selling an apartment, a second unit, and you are not approved, you are at the risk. So it's very, very important to get it registered, get it approved, so you get the best deal, if you can, of your property to avoid any penalty. So if you have any questions regarding this bylaw, and I can give you a contact information. It's very simple. If you are, for a building permit, there is a $169 fee, or residential is $283 non-residential fee to apply for it. And then obviously there will be charges for whatever that it takes to get the permit. And there is a building division fee, because when you're building permit, you're talking about is also belongs to subdivision, houses, new houses, take down. So there are multiple fees. There's about 11 pages of this building division fees on Mississauga website. If anyone wants to know how to do it, please call me on my number 416-451-3489. I can help you to guide you how to make your basement and registered with the City of Mississauga easy for you, because this is very important for us. So there are fees, depends on what you're doing, but it's not it's negligible what the benefit you will get. If you have a basement apartment and is not licensed or registered, you run the risk, because you are occupying that property and you have a tenant. You're taking a risk. If your insurance company doesn't know that and you don't have a license, it's not registered, in case of a fire, you run the risk of not getting any penny in case of a fire, because your tenant he or she will be using stove, and stove is one of the main reasons that you have to declare that power inside the house is done right, electrician certify all the electrical work, the plumbing work, the safety, exhaust, access, building structure, everything is safe, and that's why it's very, very important. So if you like to know how to do that, please do come and give me a call. My office number is 905-785-9923. I can help you to register your second basement as a second dwelling unit. So because you are doing interior alteration, that is why the bylaw is applicable. If you don't like to know that what is applicable is not applicable, you can call me and I can guide you what is applicable or what is not applicable. So this is why it's very, very important for you to understand that. So the other more important thing is that in terms of real estate, Do you know that Canadian mortgage debt has passed $2 trillion in May 2021? $2 trillion of Canadian debt in mortgage. In 5 months, based on Stat Canada, in 5 months, from January to May, in debt increased 57.5 billion. In last year, 2020, we have a 34.4 billion extra debt. So we pass 2 trillion mortgage debt. That is a concern. That's a lot of money, lot of debt, lot of responsibility. So now, just to keep you aware why potentially thing will happen, the government is watching. They will look into all scenario where we will need to make sure that we do effort. The biggest problem that we are facing right now is shortage of supply. We have multiple offers. There are a lot of disappointed buyers. They can't have access to the property because of affordability issues. People are asking. And also sellers are getting a little bit greedy as well because they want more and more money. And we have a free society, free capital, so they can ask anything they want. Whatever you can afford, you can do that. But the biggest important thing, if you are getting a value of your property, most important thing getting a best value of your property is your kitchen. If you renovate your kitchen, you're expected to get 4 to 6% increase in value in return for your property. Obviously, bathroom comes the second. Is very, very important to do that. But this is why it's very, very important to upgrade your kitchen when you are doing it. Now, just for your information, we also, as you know, I'm a director of Mississauga Real Estate Board and chair of Education Committee. I have a seminar coming for realtors, how to achieve success in real estate, on August 12, 11 a.m. to 12. So if you are a realtor, regardless you're a member or non-member of Mississauga Real Estate Board, you can visit mreb.ca and register for this program. You will learn how much it is good for you, how to achieve success in real estate. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll come back and we'll continue our conversation on Realty Coffee Talk and Awaz Entertainment. Take a break. Thank you.
पूरे ओंटारियो में लाखों लोग अपनी कोविड-19 की वैक्सीन हासिल कर चुके हैं। हेल्थ कनाडा की मंजूर शुदा तमाम वैक्सीन महफूज और अस्पतालों, डॉक्टर्स के दफातर, फार्मेसीज और अवामी वैक्सीनेशन के मुकामात पर हासिल हैं। अपना किरदार अदा करें, अपनी वैक्सीन हासिल करें। 300 जुबानों में मदद के लिए ontario.ca/book वैक्सीन पर जाएं या 1888-999-6488 पर कॉल करें।
पाकिस्तान का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सिला। होम डिलीवरी इज अवेलेबल सब्जेक्ट टू मिनिमम ऑर्डर एंड रेडियस, ऑल्सो अवेलेबल एट योर नेबरहुड फ्रेश को। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कॉन्टैक्ट करें 5146630480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से। बनाए ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ, द प्रीमियम चॉइस फॉर प्रीमियम टेस्ट। 2020 का लाजवाब ऑफर, जहां हम 0% फाइनेंसिंग पर आपकी मनपसंद कार दे रहे हैं, फ्री विंटर टायर्स, और साथ ही हम मुफ्त ऑयल चेंज भी दे रहे हैं, वो भी उम्र भर के लिए। अभी आएं और इस लाजवाब ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। जल्दी करें, आपका खुशामदीद हमारे आउटलेट में, जो कि 60 क्वींस प्लेट ड्राइव एट इंटरसेक्शन क्लोज टू हाईवे 27 एंड रेक्सडेल अपोजिट टू वुडबाइन रेस ट्रैक। जल्द से जल्द इस ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। आज ही कॉल करें सुनील अग्रवाल को 647-703-0218। देखिए खेल की आवाज हर पीर शाम 7 बजे। आज की बात समीना जबीन के साथ हर मंगल रात 8 बजे। इस्लाम इन मॉडर्न टाइम हर मंगल और जुमा शाम 6 बजे। कैनेडियन मोज़ेक हर बुध रात 8 बजे। रियलिटी कॉफी टॉक हर जुमेरात शाम 7 बजे। टुनाइट टॉक हर जुमा शाम 7 बजे। देखिए तकरार, कीजिए तकरार समीना जबीन के साथ हर रोज रात 9 बजे और रिपीट सुबह 9 बजे। आप देख रहे हैं आवाज एंटरटेनमेंट, आवाज आपकी, चैनल हमारा, जुड़िए हमसे।
Good evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. We talk about second unit registration, and if you have any question regarding you registering a unit that you already have, if it's illegal or is not legal, please call me 905-785-9923 or my cell number 416-451-3489. I'm more than happy to help you how to do it right way. To register your property in Mississauga, obviously in P region, you have to follow instruction from Mississauga as well as from Brampton, but I can guide you how to do it. So we continue our conversation. The other issue that come in real estate very common is difference between deposit and down payment. Deposit is the amount when you enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with a seller, and as a part of your condition, whether you are attaching a check with the offer or upon acceptance, you deliver a deposit to them in terms of being a bank draft, check, or electronic transfer data money. That is deposit toward the purchase of the property. You have certain condition in agreement of purchase and sale. In normal agreement of purchase and sale, it says within 24 hours you deliver that deposit to the listing agent, listing brokerage. But it could be delivering to the bank, builder, or listing to the delivering the deposit to the lawyers. It all depends how the parties agreed to the deposit. Because Real Estate Business Broker Act, which is regulated by Real Estate Council of Ontario, who give license to all of us, there is a protection for consumer up to $100,000, and you have to make sure that you don't give deposit more than $100,000. Secondly, when you deliver the funds, to make sure that they are deposited into the real estate trust account of the brokerage if you are dealing with the realtor. Because Section 27 of the Real Estate Business Broker Act tell us how to deposit money, because when the money is deposited into the account, it cannot be taken out. It's only taken out with 3 protocols. Number 1, you have a completed transaction, deal has been closed, the money was transferred and closed, the deal has closed, and you draw the money. If there's surplus funds, you give it to the seller, and if they are short of money, then the lawyer will give you balance of the commission, and you take the money out from trust account, put in commission account, and then you make the disbursement. Second is, if the deal fell apart, that means the conditions were not met, and the buyer decided not to remove the condition. At that time, there is a mutual release agreement signed between the parties, buyer, seller, listing broker, buyer, broker, and then money is released. If the deal was did not close on completion date, deal was firm, and the buyer did not want to forfeit the deposit, the matter goes to the court, and then court decides who get that deposit. When the court decision is given to the brokerage who holds the trust account, that money is dispersed. So that is what the deposit is about. So the deposit is protected under the Real Estate Business Broker Act. So when you're dealing with a real estate professional, you as a consumer, I feel comfortable that funds are in trust, not individually taken by individual. It's deposited by corporation, And you can have 3 levels of brokerage. You can have a self-employed brokerage. That means my name is Tahir Qureshi Real Estate Brokerage, or partnership Tahir Qureshi and Ken Finch Brokerage, or you can have a corporation like City Pro Realty Inc. Brokerage. So all 3 will obligated to comply with the Real Estate Business Broker Act. And if you feel that there's some you're not comfortable with something, you have some challenges, you have a complaint, you visit reco.on.ca. There is a compliance protocol. You can send an email to them, complaints@reco.on.ca, and you can see how promptly the Real Estate Council will act. Now, that we talk about deposit. Once the deal goes through or everything is fine, this deposit is treated toward purchase value. Now you have a deposit down payment. Down payment is the amount that you have to pay to close the deal. Example, you got $1 million house that you purchased, you putting 20% down, that's $200,000. You give $50,000 deposit, so you have to give again $150,000 more. That is your down payment. How you do it, you have to have this money sitting with you in account, RSPs, tax saving account, RSP, which you want to draw the money, or parents and family have gifted you the money. So that is called down payment. And you are flexible with that because you arrange with the lender, bank or a private lender or broker, whatever, is the lender who is giving you the balance of the money. That money has come to the closing. Now you will have to deal with the closing cost, which is approximately 2% of the purchase value. But if you are in Toronto, there will be double municipal land transfer tax. So that will be a little bit different. I would say maybe over 3.5% will be total cost of closing, but you have to calculate that value. So that down payment is the difference between adding deposit and your down payment equal 20%. That is your total down payment and deposit together. So 50,000 you give a deposit, 150,000 you can give down payment, so the total is 20%, which is 200,000. And then obviously, you know, you are adding a closing cost on top of that. Just so you ask the lawyer to tell you how much money the money you have to bring it to them, because they include HST and other expenses, reimbursement, lawyer fee, blah, blah, blah. So they will be added up. So you make sure that you have the money for closing your cost. This is very important. So you know the deposit is when you are starting an agreement of purchase and sale. Either if it fails, you get that back based on your terms and condition. If you complete the transaction, that money becomes part of the purchase price. Down payment is the difference between the amount that you have agreed to borrow from the bank and adding down payment and deposit together equal that amount. So make sure that you are covered. Plus you have the closing costs. So I hope that you have understanding. If you need any further questions, call me directly on my cell number 416-451-3489. I'm a broker of record and president of City Pro Realty Inc. Brokerage. So my number is 416-451-3489. Now we're going to talk about small complaints that go to the Real Estate Council. Real Estate Council take very seriously when a consumer complaint about a registrant. Registrant is a broker of record like me, broker or real estate agent. They're all called registrant. So there are two types of complaints. One is ethical issues, moral issues, breach of the contract, Real Estate Business Broker Act, or some are complaints, but they are minor issues. They are resolved by having a communication. So I'm going to share with you some of these cases recently. I think we're going to take a short break, and in the meantime, if you are watching Realty Coffee Talk, Realty Coffee Talk is a power of connectivity, and our voice is heard around the world on Awaz Entertainment. So call 647-484-0018 and get your voice heard on Awaz Entertainment in Canada, around the world.
पूरे ऑन्टेरियो में लाखों लोग अपनी कोविड-19 की वैक्सीन हासिल कर चुके हैं। हेल्थ कनाडा की मंजूर शुदा तमाम वैक्सीन महफूज और अस्पतालों, डॉक्टर्स के दफातर, फार्मेसीज और अवामी वैक्सीनेशन के मुकामात पर हासिल हैं। अपना किरदार अदा करें, अपनी वैक्सीन हासिल करें। 300 जुबानों में मदद के लिए ontario.ca/book वैक्सीन पर जाएं या 1-888-999-6488 पर कॉल करें।
पाकिस्तान का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सिला। होम डिलीवरी इज अवेलेबल सब्जेक्ट टू मिनिमम ऑर्डर एंड रेडियस, ऑल्सो अवेलेबल एट योर नेबरहुड फ्रेश कोड। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कॉन्टैक्ट करें 514-6630-480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से। बनाए ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ, द प्रीमियम चॉइस फॉर प्रीमियम टेस्ट। 2020 का लाजवाब ऑफर, जहां हम 0% फाइनेंसिंग पर आपकी मनपसंद कार दे रहे हैं, फ्री विंटर टायर्स, और साथ ही हम मुफ्त ऑयल चेंज भी दे रहे हैं, वो भी उम्र भर के लिए। अभी आएं और इस लाजवाब ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। जल्दी करें, आपका खुशामदीद हमारे आउटलेट में, जो कि 60 क्वींस प्लेट ड्राइव एट इंटरसेक्शन क्लोज टू हाईवे 27 एंड रेक्सडेल अपोजिट टू वुडबाइन रेस ट्रैक। जल्द से जल्द इस ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। आज ही कॉल करें सुनील अग्रवाल को 647-703-0218।
Evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. My name is Tahir Qureshi. You're watching Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. If you are a builder, developer, renovator, lawyer, real estate broker, brokerage, mortgage broker, insurance lawyer, you can advertise on Awaz Entertainment. We have tremendous following across Canada, around the world. You will have a special package from Awaz Entertainment for you because you are a viewer of Realty Coffee Talk. So call 647-484-0018 and get a special discount on advertising in Awaz Entertainment. Now I'm going to talk to you about Real Estate Council resolved complaints. The Real Estate Council, under circumstances, registrar tried attempt to resolve complaints between the parties. RECO does not have the authority to impose a resolution to monetary or contractual dispute or to assess or award damages. Any exchange of money mentioned in the following summaries are agreed upon voluntarily by the complainant and respondent. So these are the cases that I share with you which are resolved without naming any parties, but it's only pinpoint the issue, the topic, when some violation happens, who complains them. So first complaint was from a consumer about a registrant. It says that on 5th November 2020, a registrant website included links to other companies, news media and service provider, including a plug-in feature which misled the consumer to falsely believe that the registrant was affiliated and endorsed by these other outlets. So it has the misleading guidance because of the link, and the consumer felt there was a misled. So the agreement, the registrant agreed to remove the plug-in feature from the website. So it was so easy. They complained to RECO. RECO called the registrant. He unplugged the link. Matter resolved. But that means if you have a complaint, you can report it. The other one, a tenant complaint on November 11, 2020. I haven't seen anything in 2021 yet. The tenant complained against seller representative. The tenant were concerned regarding the seller's representative unprofessional conduct and safety protocol related to the pandemic. That's a concern a tenant expressed. So the seller representative apologized and agreed to follow protocol for safety during the pandemic and to maintain professionalism. So whatever happened, they were complained, and the registrant was called in, they reported to Realty Council, and they resolved the matter. That means, as a registrant, we cannot act unprofessionally, unsafe when we're visiting and trying to rent a property which is occupied or sell a property. So we have to demonstrate safety standard and as professionalism. So here is a seller complained about the buyer's representative. Registrar means buyer broker or agent. This happened on 16 November 2020. The buyer's representative booked a showing which he attended alone without his client, without clarifying the intent of the showing with the seller. So buyer agent booked a showing and attended without the client and did not clarify seller why he come. Additionally, the buyer agent left his shoes on during the appointment. So two things. The buyer agent did not have a buyer. Second thing, he wore the shoes. As you know, lots of sellers are now keeping cameras in the security in the house. They may be monitoring it, even though they're supposed to give notification, but maybe that's why they observed it. Then what happened? The buyer's representative committed to clarify his intention for showing, so that means he clarified he has a buyer who may have told him to go and visit the property. If they like it, then he will come and see that. He explained that. And prior to attending, he apologized keeping the shoes on during the, so he did apologize. So it was something that he did wrong. He should not wear the shoes. You always ask your client to take off your shoes. In this case, registrar himself was wearing the shoes, so took it down. So see, they resolved it. It was not something very serious, but they took it. They resolved that. And the guy apologized to the seller. Now here's the buyer agent complaining about seller's representative. This happened on 23rd November 2020. Let's see what they say. The listing for the subject property indicated that showing would start on a specific date. They list the property showing on a specific date. The buyer's representative called to book an appointment closer to that date and was informed that property was sold. See, the buyer was not, they were showing a date that property will be shown, and then the time he called, the property was sold. The buyer representative considered the matter resolved once the seller representative received instruction from RICO on correct process. So Real Estate Council gave them a very clear instruction to the seller agent that how this to be followed. The matter closed. Because this was complained within the professionals. The buyer complaining against buyer representative and seller representative. So the buyer is complaining against the buyer agent and the seller agent. 23rd November 2020. The listing and advertisement for subject property earnestly identified the flooring as hardwood. Despite double doubt expressed by the buyer, neither the seller representative nor the buyer representative verified the type of flooring prior to buyer's purchase of the property. You see the problem? Property said by mistake it was a hardwood. Neither the seller agent nor the buyer agent clarified that. So buyer assumed it is a hardwood as shown on the listing. So what happened? How did the real estate council deal with it? Okay, let's see it. So the buyer representative and seller representative agreed to provide financial compensation to the buyer for the replacement of the flooring from laminate to hardwood. So it's very deceiving. There is a laminate versus hardwood flooring. You have to look at the thickness. Normally hardwood is 3/4 inch thick. The engineer hardwood are 1/2 inch. They're also 3¼ inch. So, but there is finishes is very deceiving, but you have to look at the thickness. If you look at the joint, sometimes they cover the joint with a strip, and you can see that one is a hardwood or is a carpet and hardwood, because laminate is thinner than the hardwood. So you have to watch that. So it's also deceiving because of the finishes. So the both real estate agent replaced the flooring, so consumer did not feel. This is why the Real Estate Council of Ontario, a consumer protection agency that regulate real estate profession business in the province of Ontario. They are mandated by the Ontario government to provide education, registration, consumer protection, and insurance program. Compliance and consumer protection program. There are 4 elements, and they watched that, and they took it very seriously, and they asked the both agent, pay for it and resolve it. This is how it's done. Here is another one. Buyer representative complained against the seller representative. 24 November 2020. So what was the complaint? Tenants were quarantining in the basement apartment at the subject property, and the seller representative failed to state that the basement was off limit and did not clearly mark the basement entrance. See, that's a serious. You have people quarantined in there, and you're risking buyer and his agent to go there. So both parties come to an agreement to read RECO's COVID-19 industry notices to ensure they are following protocol. This has to do with education. Real Estate Council of Ontario has given guidelines. Canadian Real Estate Association have given guidelines. Ontario Real Estate Association have given guidelines. Mississauga Real Estate Board has given guidelines. Toronto Regional Real Estate Board has given guidelines. Other real estate boards have given guidelines to follow the protocol, how to prevent these happening. I think on various programs I mentioned about protecting, keeping social distance, wearing the mask, using sanitizer, marking the areas, leaving the door open. If people are quarantined, obviously they need to be blocked, not to provide access. So these are the protocols that we are supposed to follow and read them. Very frequently emails are coming to us. We are a subscriber of email. We get guidance to make sure we don't become a conduit of spreading the virus. We have a lockdown, stage 3 opening up in Ontario. We have to be more cautious about it. But this happened before that. So this is why it's very important to bring this to you now. Here's another one. Buyer complaining against buyer-seller representative. I don't know if I mentioned this before or not. The buyer purchased the property and after closing revealed a bill from Enbridge stating that the furnace and AC were rental. You have noticed that on MLS sometimes they mention that $100, $200 fee for rental fee. Maybe they missed that. This information was never disclosed nor included in the agreement of purchase and sale. So viewers, watch it. Ask your realtor, or realtor, please disclose that. Inquire about it. What equipment in the premises is rented or leased? What is the buyout? So you know if your client want to pay it off or they're negotiating the price, they want to make sure they cover that. Because by you adding, not disclosing this information will create a financial liability for a period of time. Your client may not want to lease the property, buy the property with the leasable stuff, furnaces, air conditioning, or appliances. So it's very important for it to disclose that. So what happened here? So the buyer representative and seller representative agreed to split the cost incurred by the buyer and made the payment. So basically, the buyer refused, and with the interference from real estate counsel, both agents agreed to pay 50-50, and they buy out those rental because they were not disclosed. So we're going to give you the final one for today, and we continue to share this because we want to make sure that you are prepared. The other one is seller representative. This is the tenant against seller. On 30 November 2020, seller agent representative paid a visit to the unit without prior notice to the seller. This is the tenant complaining that the seller representative paid a visit to the unit without prior notice to the seller. The seller representative apologized and recognized the importance of understanding Residential Tenancy Act and respecting the rights of the privacy of the tenants. So if you are an owner, you have a tenant that you have asked listing agent to sell a property. Friends, you are responsible. You are registrant. You have an obligation. You have a Residential Tenancy Act that requires minimum 24-hour notice. You need to notify when you making the payment, making a visit. There could be a quarantine. There could be somebody sick. You make sure you coordinate that. But this was resolved, and also privacy issue of the tenant. They have the right of privacy to enjoy the premises they have rented to occupy that unit. Without their consent, you cannot visit. You have to give them notice to make sure nobody is sick. Then you go there and you make the visit. So they resolve this. So real estate counsel makes sure that they resolve things where is possible, unless there are other elements that contravene with the Real Estate Business Broker Act and Code of Conduct. Then there will be a different disciplinary process they will follow. If you want to learn about Real Estate Council guidelines and complaint program, visit reco.on.ca. Again, you're watching Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm your host. If you have any question regarding real estate, please feel free to call my office 905-785-9923 or my direct number 416-451-3489. If you wish to advertise on Awaz Entertainment and get a very, very special discount, please call 1-888-786-9809, and you can get a very special discount. You tell them that you are a viewer of Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. I take this opportunity on behalf of Awaz Entertainment, Realty Coffee Talk, to thank our health professional, doctors, nurses, paramedic, military forces, security agency, for their dedication and commitment to keep all of us safe. May God bless you all. We'll see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. May God bless Canada. Bye for now. We'll see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. on Awaz Entertainment. Thank you. Bye for now.